Welcome to the Bright Ideas Podcast, where we share bold insights and real stories for people leaders building cultures and companies that scale. I'm your host, Desiree B, Sharpe, keynote speaker and CEO of Color Vision Lab. We're the people and culture consulting firm helping creative businesses design smarter systems and build high-performing teams. Today, I'm joined by two very special guests, Alan Watson and Victoria Lozano, co-founders of Blue 7 Content. If you want to scale your business without sacrificing your culture, this conversation is for you. And if you're exploring ways to elevate your people strategy, DM us the word growth on LinkedIn for a free consultation. Victoria and Alan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes,
well, I'm so excited to dive into this conversation, but I would love to get started by hearing more about your co-founder journey. Tell us a little bit more about Blue 7 Content and how you came to be co-founders.
Well, it's a wild ride, but I think Victoria and I have known since the third grade, because that's how far back we go, that we would do something together. Now, if you'd have asked us if we'd ever been legal marketers, or if you asked her if she'd be an attorney, we would have laughed in your face because we were marine science majors.
Yep.
But when I say we grew up together, elementary school, middle school, high school, undergrad. We finally split for grad school. But we have always been in each other's realm. And so Victoria, she got hit by a car coming over to my house once on her bike. That's how far back it goes. And that's just why, and this is why we decided to co-found together, right? We know each other. We know what our goals are in general. But yeah, Victoria, what do you want to add on?
Yeah, I like to joke because I know his family really well. And I was like, I know you guys maybe expected marriage, but you're getting a business partnership instead.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, we also, we worked together. We didn't ever work together. Our working goals always kind of like aligned with each other. We both got into education. We realized marine science wasn't for us. Shocker. But I got into higher education. He got into high school education. I always had a side gig, whether that be in the hospitality industry or it primarily became freelance. So I went into freelance writing really early on, even when I was in undergrad, just working for local newspapers, working for women's magazines, just trying to get as much of my writing out there as I could, because it was just a really nice little side hustle to have. And so when Alan and I kind of came back together around like 2016, 2017 or whatever, mainly because our aging parents were getting sick. And we realized that as the kind of like the most reliant children in the family, maybe, we knew that our roles would be changing. And so we knew that we would have to pivot into some type of caregiving. And we needed a supportive financial role in that. And freelance writing was just kind of where it was. And so Alan was really going into the forefront of that. And I was still trying to struggle in my career where I wanted to go, either PhD or law school. And that's when he was like, hey, I have this client. They need writers. Would you be a writer with me on this? And I said 100%. And that's how him and I kind of got into the legal field, into the legal writing field. As a year or so went on, we realized that it didn't have a lot of guidance, this freelance area in the legal industry. And so we were like, I bet with our powers combined, in our passion for education and our love for organizing things, that we could probably make this a more formalized approach to freelance writing in the legal industry. And that's when Blue 7 really started to formulate together. And that's when him and I really put our heads down. And in 2020, we launched.
And when she says it was not organized, the industry, this part of the industry, obviously the legal marketing industry is huge. We're just one little part of it. But when Victoria and I first started working with an agency that provided content for law firms, We were given absolutely no guidance. It was a title of a page. They told us to go make this SEO optimized. I tell this joke, and it's not even a joke. I didn't know what SEO was at the time. And so I went out and bought SEO for Dummies, and we learned, right? We learned, and we started learning by doing. And after a few years of that, like Victoria said, we can do this. We can do this better. So before we even started hiring, we wrote guides. Like, we didn't want anybody to ever be in a position that worked for us that we were in, to where it was thrown to the wind, because you're not going to get a good product, right? And Victoria and I knew if we were going to do this, we had to be better than everybody else out there, because this is a saturated market. Why? At the time, I don't even think we really knew that. We probably wouldn't have done this otherwise. But we have quickly taken that. We took the guide. We train new people on the guides. We train them on client work before they even, we even set them free. So we formalized the process. And again, it was her and I at the beginning writing for ourselves. We hired our best friend from school, another one of our lifelong friends. She's kind of running the company right now. And well, not to say that we're not, but if Victoria and I dropped off the map tomorrow, the company would continue on, right? That's a great thing. You want that from your leadership. And then now we have 23 people. That was 5 years ago. We have obviously changed a lot since then. There's a lot of things looking back, and we went, what were we doing? We've brought on some new people that have found holes in our system, but we weren't aware of because we haven't looked at them in so long. And that is great too. It's frustrating, but it's frustrating because we didn't pick it up first, right? That's why we ended up where we're at now. The company has certainly pivoted a lot since then, but that was the journey to 2020. Unfortunately, in the midst of all that, we had an incredible amount of tragedy. Victoria's mom passed away. My dad passed away. It was one hit after another. Now my mom's sick. But we have each other. And if there's one message I can give to anybody out there right now, it's this: have a co-founder that you trust, because when shit hits the fan, because it will, I wouldn't have been able to do this alone. I bet Victoria would say the same thing, because there are multiple failure points along the way for each of us where life happened and we wouldn't have been able to keep up. But I can turn to her. Oftentimes she knows ahead of time whether I need it, and vice versa. We know when things are happening. When my dad died, Victoria was here the next day, from Chicago. And then she ran the business for a while after that because I had to deal with things. So that's my big nugget. Have a co-founder that you trust.
I know. I don't want to get too into, I know we have other things to talk about too.
Honestly, there was so much richness and great insights just in that initial question that we talked through. I think it's interesting that there's this theme of going through the different seasons in life, experiencing loss, experiencing transition in your personal life, and exploring at a deeper level how that shifts how we show up in the business as leaders, right? So some themes that I'm thinking about include setting boundaries, succession planning, as you mentioned, having a strong leadership team. So can you share, maybe each of you share a nugget or two about some of the strategies or philosophies or themes that have been a guiding light for you in leading through the various seasons of life? So how do you shift your energy, your priorities and expectations to still meet the business needs, but also still make sure that you can show up in your home life the way that you need to?
My answer might not be the exact answer you're looking for, but it has to do with how Victoria and I approached the business early on, which was transparency with the team. So when things are going on, we can tell them, we tell them just about everything, what's happening. So if things aren't looking great, or if I'm going through something that I know is going to take me out of the ball game, they know ahead of time what's happening. They know we always tell them what's going on in the company. And so our lives have obviously shifted a lot since the beginning, but at all points along the way, we've been very transparent with each other, with our team. And I think that has built a lot of trust and goodwill with our clients. We're very transparent with the clients if something's going on. Now, very rarely do we ever have to tell a client we can't meet a deadline. That's just something we don't like to do. But I think transparency is huge. If you're keeping things from the people around you that you have to trust, then it's not going to work out the way you think.
Yeah. I think just to add in addition, like it's transparency and communication. And maybe those things just are conjoined, right? So like being transparent with your communication, but just being very actively communicative with the group, with the clients. I think anytime we onboard either a writer or a client, we are very clear on like, we are going to ask questions. We are going to continue to bombard you with messages. I don't know if that's just because, growing up in Myrtle Beach, it's very hospitality oriented. And so I know I'll speak from my perspective. In being like, I was serving when I was like 13 or 14. It was like my first serving job at a friend's restaurant. Like you're not even supposed to work, but I was. I was. Like they needed some extra help. I was in there, serving to people. And so we're so used to being client and trained to be so client facing and to not only satisfy the client, but be proactive in what we know the client may be concerned about. And, we've gotten a couple, pats on the back from that. Like we had a situation with one of our clients and there was some miscommunication happening between us and the director. And so we were very transparent. We're like, hey, we're not getting a hold of this director. We're not understanding why we can't get a hold of them. And they're like, oh, that's really good to know. Thank you. They were able to like figure out what was happening, And so taking that like proactive approach too, but also just understanding, I think Alan and I have had to incorporate a lot of grace into our working relationship and with the team. We understand that there's freelancers. We understand that they have other jobs. They have other responsibilities. We have a writer who's like a mom on our team. We have a writer who just gave birth. We have a writer who he's a very good writer of ours. He's been with us since the get. I'm talking about Jim.
Yeah.
And like he has like 3 kids, I think, or and they're all in sports.
He's a firefighter. And so he is just
he's a fire. Yeah.
So busy.
And so, we're very like, if you are transparent in your communication about your needs and you give us the time ahead, like, hey, this is a heads up, we can give that grace. We can work with that, right? We can fill in those gaps. The things that don't work and the people that don't last on our team, and even the clients that don't work with us are the ones that don't talk, the ones that don't tell us when something's going wrong, and we don't know about it until, oh my gosh, something's due, and where is it? We're not going to backtrack like that. And I think that's like where boundaries kind of come in, right? Like, I'm sorry, like we give you maybe like once little pass and grace, but like second time, sorry, we're done. We're a business. If you can't adhere to these expectations, like turning in an assignment, then sorry. No time to pass on, time to move on.
I love that. There's so much power in having transparency be one of your core values, especially as a small business owner and founder. One of the beauties about, owning an SMB company is that you can be very close to the people, close to the clients. And I think people really respect that. It's something that you can communicate during the hiring process, to your point, during the onboarding for both clients and for customers so that they know exactly what to expect. And I think that that's something, this theme of transparent communication should be modeled across more companies of all sizes. So I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious to know, in the past year, what's changed the most in how you lead or run the business? What's something that's keeping you up at night?
Well, let me say this. Up until December, Victoria was full-time at a law firm as well. Like she has she's starting her own law firm now, but she was full-time at a different law firm. I was full-time writing for a separate client that never wanted to get folded into the business because both Victoria and I we're scared of not having money. And it's because we came from a background where we didn't have it.
We didn't have any.
And then once we started making it, we just saw a lot of the consequences of bad financial decisions. So we have always been tight, close, And so it was hard for us to let go of that additional income. But also it got to the point where we looked at each other and went, Blue 7 is taking off. It has been taking off. But what could it do if both of us were full throttle behind it? And I think we thought we were. But I think we realize now that maybe we should have stepped back in. And I say step back in because we really immersed ourselves again. We realized that there are some holes we need to fix, and we maybe have gotten too big for our level of involvement. So we've been doing a lot of maintenance over the last 6 months. We have spent 6 months in the weeds, a lot of headaches, a lot of nights of us going, what are we doing and how did we get here? But this last month, the fruits of that, Victoria can tell you, we are ahead of the game. Like we got all the client work knocked out for this month. Like we have just been nailing it. And I think it's because we finally got in and saw those systems, because there's other things we want to do with the business. We couldn't do it if this part, the content part, wasn't kind of on autopilot with the people we have in place. But I think it is now. But that's been the biggest change we've made personally and for the business over the last, I think, probably since we started the business, Victoria.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was both of us taking the leap to be all in, which is wild because, we have hit our financial markers well above and beyond
Every year.
what we had expected. And that even wasn't us going full throttle. So when we both decided to go full throttle, we're like really seeing where the opportunities are. So it very much is a little bit of a leap of faith. I think maybe to speak a little more on like kind of some trends that have hit our market, AI was a really big impact. Even though AI has been around, I think it's literally just ChatGPT as the one that's spawned this like Pandora's box of like, we have AI, we have AI. I'm like, oh, you mean like Google? Anyway, I will keep my opinions to myself. But
mind you, this that wasn't there. That hadn't exploded when we started the company. So
no, yeah, that started about 2 or 3 years in, and I was just graduating law school. I was in the middle of preparing to take the bar exam, and all the while in the background was this loom of, how is something like a ChatGPT going to impact us in our work? How are we going to rationalize or argue or really put a stake in the ground that we are the place to go for content writing, where humans actually write? And believe it or not, we just stayed true to ourselves. We stayed true to our goals, right? We have original research optimized, like those are part of our pillars. The one pillar that isn't there is paying our writers. So we are original research optimized and we pay, right? So we hold to that just because we were freelance writers, we didn't get paid. I don't even want to go into those types of stories, but there's just so many. And I know across the board, that's just what it is. You get hired by a client, you work for the client and they don't pay. So we never wanted to be that type of place for our writers. I think that's also why people are attracted to working with us. But all that to say is, we were concerned about how this was going to impact. And just to give a short kind of summary of it, even though we're still kind of facing some challenges today, but more or less, we did see a very slow down of clients reaching out and some disruption of our workflow. However, 6 months to a year later, those people that we had potentially missed or lost, or the work that kind of slowed down, came right back.
Yep.
And we're seeing that even though people can choose to use a heavy AI written as an option, they soon realize that it is just not up to par. It is just not hitting the goals. And it takes an even longer time to train the thing that you want.
well, you're
And even
prompting. You're
then,
spending 2 hours on a prompt when I'd have had the page done in an hour, because our field is so
exactly.
particular. You can't. ChatGPT doesn't know. I mean, I'm sure it does. AI can do what you want. It can do what you want it to do. It's just how much time do you want to invest in that to get it to do that? And also, I mean, we're looking at this shift back, especially for law firms, is like, we have to everybody has deluged the internet over the last few years with content. And so if personal injury firm in Myrtle Beach is using it for their car accident page, personal injury firm in Charleston's using it for their car accident page, ChatGPT or any of the AIs, or they're drawing from the same information. They're giving those firms almost the same exact page with no flavor. And so what we found is we've had clients come to us, even that left, come back, and they ditched the AI because it wasn't working for their clients. It wasn't working for their law firms because, again, we're filled with attorneys. We're attorney driven. We have Victoria at the top, and we have attorneys throughout. We have some paralegals that write for us. They know, they apply this stuff. They live it. And you can't translate that to a page. And this is not just legal. This is any industry, any business owner that's listening. You know your product. Why are you going to trust a machine to tell others about your product? Because if you have the passion, especially as a law firm, whose people are coming to you at the worst moments of their lives, you want to read material that is written by a human that has compassion and empathy, not a cold machine that does not connect. They're going to the next client. They're going to click the back button or AI mode, whatever we're doing nowadays. They're going to go to the one that talks to them the most, that recognizes their problem. And I think a lot of law firms and other industries have realized that if we're going to use AI, and Victoria and I are not anti-AI at all, I don't want that to be the takeaway. We use it personally, but you have to find a way to make sure your voice shines through. I know that not everybody can pay for a content company or an SEO company. And if the best you can do is use AI, but you better add yourself to it. You better add your business and product to it and let it's communication. Victoria and I are writers at heart. And I guess it hurts us more when we see these just dull things that don't communicate, because words have power. And I can scream that all day long, but until you're the one affected by whatever you're reading, you don't quite realize it.
Yeah. And it's influenced us in how we sell ourselves, how we sell the products that we write. So, for example, we work with both agencies and with CMOs, even independent fractional CMOs, like we work with them too. And so we've had to kind of change the language of how we speak of what we do. So instead of us saying, hey, we'll just write that content for you, we've now evolved and we're like, hey, we can be this fractional SEO service for you. What does that mean? It means we seamlessly integrate into whatever marketing structure that you have to take care of the pain, the frustration, no one wants to write. I've been a writing teacher for so long. Like, it's not something people want to do. And unfortunately, that translates into devaluing the importance of it. People want to have this beautiful website and they want to see all the clicks and the colors and the sparkle and blah, blah, blah. But when that client or potential client finally lands on that page, they need to read. They're going to want to read, or they're going to want to hear something. And that's the magic of words. So we, now position ourselves to say, like, we can be this seamless integration into that headache that is the content on your website. Pair it with SEO, pair it with your branding, have human researched, human eyes, legal eyes on the page so that you can feel safe and secure that you are getting writing that is compliant with legal ethics, that is going to portray the law in a way in which is digestible for your potential clients, and establishes authority in your field so that when the client goes to your site and sees all these flashy things, they can feel even more assured when they start to read and be like, oh, this is the real deal. Let me reach out. And that's when you can work with those little pop-ups that I know people have on their websites, those AI helpers, like anything that we can do to help get your client or potential client to ask that little, bubble, tap on that bubble and write something in, or go to that contact us page. Like, we're all in. Like, that's what we're motivated to do too. And there's ways in which we can do that. So that's how it's kind of like, even though it was a headache, it has helped us better define how we work too.
So many great nuggets there. I think there's a lot to be said about, your brand differentiation and, your leadership style and how you're pivoting to be able to flow with the rise of AI instead of resisting against it and making it work for your company. I've spoken to other content company CEOs, actually one very recently, and he had a very different perspective and mindset around this. And it was a bit of a doom and gloom kind of outlook, feeling like the content company model is extinct. And I just think hearing you guys speak about it is very refreshing because everyone is in the same position in terms of having to throw things at the wall. If it's not working, you got to figure out what does. And you have to really lean into what makes your company unique, why clients continue to choose you. I think I saw a post the other day about the CEO of OpenAI talking about how people need to stop being so trusting of ChatGPT. And people are asking for medical advice and all kinds of things in the prompts. And he's literally saying, ChatGPT hallucinates. There's a disclaimer at the bottom of the page that says that.
Yeah.
Last week, or maybe the week before, an MIT preliminary study had come out about critical thinking skills. They did studies, current ones, not looking far back, but they did studies with groups of people and allowed some to use AI and some not. And what they found is that even those that started strong using AI in conjunction with their own writing, as the assignments went on, their critical thinking skills just got all to where they were copying pasting at the end the content from AI to their page with no adjustments. So it is, we can watch it happen in front of us. Now that is not a conclusive finalized study, but I will be willing to bet that, in this again pains Victoria and I, because we came from the education field, we didn't have to worry so much about students using this. I couldn't imagine nowadays. I couldn't. Victoria still teaches, but she doesn't necessarily teach writing.
Yeah. I pivoted. So I teach a women in law class at Coastal Carolina University. That's our alma mater. And I teach it every spring and I absolutely love it. And I do have writing assignments, but the final is an oral exam. And I force them to write different prompts that they would want to talk about. But once we're in the room, whether it be on Zoom or in person, when I'm able to get down to Myrtle Beach, which is where Coastal is, no phones in the room, no nothing. It's got to come from you, And so, there's ways to go about it. But I think, I'll let Alan finish what you say. Sorry. I feel like I just jumped in. I just had to say that.
I reached the end of my thought, I think. I'm
Okay.
having a hard time imagining now. And we notice this with younger people that we bring on the team. We're now hiring, if we hire anybody younger, it's from a generation that has had AI in their education. And there is a difference. There's a different writing skill there. And, I don't know, writing is changing, but I am personally making sure that I write my things because I value that skill. And I feel like there's going to be, and then we've kind of already seen the backlash, there's going to be a desire for the higher level stuff. Case in point, one of our clients just opted to kind of level up from basic SEO writing to what Victoria and I have developed over the last year called focal points. And they go more in depth. And these more in-depth pieces, I think, are going to be much better for the authority of a law firm or a business as opposed, in the world of AI where everything's the same. So we're seeing, people are making changes and we're offering products for that, we're also developing other things with the business to diversify. We know we have to diversify, and it was always the plan to anyway. This is just the first, AI is the impetus to make us go, okay, we know that the content part is still going to be here. We know that's not going away. But what can we do to complement that? What can we help clients with to add to this, to add value that maybe their competitors aren't?
You've shared a lot about the great things that your company is doing to be innovative, to remain competitive. And as you're scaling the business, anytime we scale, there's always friction. There's always bottlenecks, inefficiencies that pop up with growing a business. So for you, where are you feeling some of that friction as a result of having a strong business?
Well, Victoria can tell you.
Editing team and
our
turn back
editing
time.
team. So explain that, Victoria. So as we increase our content, the writers are great, but we have an editing team also. So when you work with us, you're not just getting a piece from a writer. We have an editing team that goes through every single piece. But that was the bottleneck. we had a bottleneck there. And that was, we could say tomorrow and go out to a client and go, we can have 500,000 more words this month. Our editors would have killed us, right? So because we didn't have it streamlined exactly the way it should have been. And I'll admit, we're probably not quite there yet, but I know we're getting really close. We brought on some other people to help out. Morgan, who's obviously our wonder person in the team. It's people that we may not have thought would have made good editors, but, it's people that had the time and have been workhorses for us and have made excellent editors, right? It's sometimes when you elevate people, you don't really know exactly what you're going to get until you put them there. And sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. And I have been very pleasantly surprised with the people we have moved up. And again, we don't move people into an editing position unless they have been through the writing, because they're from the ground up, right? So they step in and can see what's wrong with other pages and easily communicate with other people on the team. We've not had any friction that I'm aware of. I can look at the Slack chat now. I don't think anybody's been too mad that someone that was on their level is now telling them what's wrong with their page. But, they keep that out of my hair. Well, I don't have hair. That's why it's all gone. So, but yeah, that was definitely a bottleneck. I think we have almost solved that problem. So.
I'm sitting here kind of beaming because you're running your business like you're much larger than what you are, and it's working out so well for you. Just hearing how you think about succession planning and promoting talent, developing talent, these are things that so many SMB founders and CEOs don't think about. We're so knee deep in the business development pieces, the client service, but sometimes we forget about the people. And I think it's great that you're able to spot that potential and talent that they sometimes don't see in themselves, give them an opportunity and a process to follow, and obviously setting them up to be successful. And then to your point, Alan, being pleasantly surprised. I think it creates a deeper sense of purpose and connection that they feel to the organization, which ultimately is a retention driver, and it bolsters engagement. Would you agree?
Yeah. And can I say this? I think that the reason that has come naturally for Victoria and I will say that a lot of this has come naturally. Even we didn't know there were words for what we were doing. Now we do. We realize that, hey, we're maybe doing some things right. Because we taught. And when you see a student that's not thriving, that doesn't mean that they can't. It means that maybe you're not presenting the information in the right way, or maybe they're not in the right position. And case in point, Morgan, I keep coming back to Morgan. If she's listening, praise you. She was our best writer, and she was our first writer, but her words just speak to you. But she has a special needs daughter who needs a lot of attention, and writing takes all of your focus. So when you write a paragraph and have to go deal with something for an hour, come back, writing, you have to keep the flow going. You can't just jump back in all the time. So we shifted her to the editing because she was our first editor. Now she's kind of our, running a lot of things, but she absolutely killed it in that role, killed it. And that was kind of light bulb for me. It was like, this is just like teaching. You find what works for the people that you have. If there's something that's not clicking, go through your options, see if there's a better fit for them somewhere else in the company. The last resort, and I hate my least favorite thing is letting somebody go. It's the worst part of running a business.
Makes me do it.
Yeah. Victoria almost always is the one. Unless I get really fired up, I can get fired up and then shoot off a message and go. And usually we have to calm each other down a lot. I'll send her and say, can I say this? Can I put this online? Or can I post this? And she's like, no, you can't post that, and vice versa. But yeah, not even sure what the original question was, but I feel like we answered it.
If I could kind of also come in and chime, I do very much feel like our education training really did set us up well for this, being business developers, because when you're teaching, especially in the way that I was trained, when you come to creating your lesson, you have to think of all the angles. The end assignment is due in like 3 weeks. So all your lesson plans have to funnel into what that final submission is going to look like. And you just don't know how these students are going to interpret these lessons. And so when we set up the different writing guides and the different training sessions, we have to consider and take into account all the different ways in which it can be interpreted. And we realize that if there is a writer after training who isn't meeting, like there's always a learning curve involved, but typically by month 2, month 3, they're pretty happy and going. If within that month 2, we're not seeing any progression or we're not seeing, goals being met, then we have to take a critical look and say, is there something that we have not provided for them? Like, what's the missing lesson plan that we missed? What's the stone, that didn't get touched? And what have we not provided for that writer to be successful? And granted, yes, there is their input as well. But once we feel like we have exhausted all of our thoughts, and if we, hopefully that writer is being clear and communicative on what we are, we can kind of easily tell, then we have to make that decision of, okay, no, you got to go, or here, let's pivot. And these writers that we have just hired on have been these beautiful little pieces of challenges that are really being vocal and saying, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh my God, like, okay,
It makes sense to
let's
us.
scale back,
Love it,
and
right?
figure out
But
where these miscommunications and interpretations are happening. And I love that they've done that. And they've been really great power horses on our team, but sorry, Alan, I had interrupted. What were
I'm
you
just
going to say?
laughing at you said little pieces of challenges. That- I've never heard those words strung together in my life, but I love it.
I love it too. I thought it was interesting as well. So let's talk a little bit about what you're focusing on for next quarter. What are some of your goals and priorities?
We are deep into shifting in the next phase of the company. You're kind of the first person we're telling this to, really, other than the close confidants. We are starting, Victoria and I are going to be consulting, and I say consulting is not traditional consulting. We're going to do it in our own way, and we're calling it the Blue 7 Acceleration Path, BSAP for short. Remember the BSAP? We took that back in like when we were little kids in
I
school,
just realized that too. That was like a testing name.
like elementary
Okay,
school.
moving on.
Yeah, so we're still developing. We have our first 3 clients for consulting. We are very soft launching all of this. We're learning as we're going with these first few, but we're going to kind of develop a program to help attorneys, not just with content. That's going to be a facet of what we may offer. But what Victoria and I are going to do is try to connect with not just law firm owners, but business owners who are ready to kind of grow from one level to the next. We're not going to try to jump you from here all the way to here. We're going to try to do it in a nice, smooth path. We've got these insights. We have this system. We have seen great results with the people we're working with right now. We're trying to get the system formalized, obviously, because we want to have it kind of seamless from the beginning. Right now, it's clunky as all get out, right? It's your trial by
So,
fire.
yeah.
And I'm just, the first clients are my roadmap. I'm making a journal, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And then we're going to launch early 2026. But this next quarter and the quarter after are going to be, that's why we kind of wanted to get the Blue 7 content on autopilot so we could really dig in and go dark and develop this for a little while and then be ready, because this is like a whole nother company. Like Victoria and I can never stop doing, right? We should be happy, but we are, but what's next? What is coming next? And because we have this team of people, I keep looking over here because we have this beautiful Slack channel with all these people who rely on us, and I want to keep providing work for them and new opportunities because they're such a great team, and not, they share things with each other when we're not there. It's kind of thriving on its own. And
Yeah.
that BSAP, Blue 7 Acceleration Path, is what we're working on.
And we're working in different verticals too. So we're working in the financial realm. We're working in sales growth. We're working in, we actually have this wonderful coffee shop that
My favorite client.
he just like adopted them. I don't think he gave them a choice to work with us. He just said, "You're working with us," and it's been a beautiful relationship since. So we are looking and tapping into different industries to see how we can, provide guidance. I think in being an attorney in law school, there was this like endless amount of resources and all this legal technology. And when I left law school and entered the actual market and was getting hired on by these firms, I realized, oh, you guys don't have this legal technology. Like not every firm can afford it. Not every firm wants it. Not every firm, but it was a very stark difference from how I was trained in law school versus entering the real world. And I say that because what I'm noticing as a trend in our industry is, yes, there's tons of technology out there, but people who are deep in their business don't have time to learn it. And they don't really want to learn it, nor do they want to, see if this is going to work out or not. Time is precious. Time is finite. I hate to say it, but time is money. So hiring us or consulting with us or working with us, that's our job, is to look at these different types of technologies, to understand these different types of tools that may help you and kind of give that guidance on obviously a more personal level, as well as create this strategic plan for you to follow. Because as a business owner, like all these perspectives that I have, right? Starting a business, going to law school, being an attorney, working in a law firm, it gets so noisy. Everyone telling you what to do. You go on LinkedIn and they're so like clickbaity posts that are like AI is everything or AI is nothing
You're
or
gonna fall behind.
yeah, you're falling behind and you're
No, you're
just
not.
getting
By the way.
yelled at from all these different angles. And it's like, I think that's also the beauty of having like a co-founder, having just like a business partner who's a friend, because we're able to really tone down those noises and just like kind of focus on each other. But when you're starting in your business, whether you've been in it for a while and it's going flat, or whether you are just launching in, having someone there to kind of be that noise reducer, I think is really important. And I know that's what Alan and I provide in the conversations that we've had, even with these initial 3 clients. And to be able to say, we can do this and we've got the ability to take care of your content, I think is just a really great like backpack to have as we go on this next journey.
I love that. We probably could chat for another hour easily about all this stuff. It's so juicy. And you know what? I'm probably going to take you up on that. So, you've touched on so many, just so many valuable things. This podcast is just about scaling your company without losing the essence of your culture. It's really caring about the people and leading with heart. And you both exemplify that. And so to wrap up, I like to ask every guest to share their one bright idea with the audience. A bright idea can be a mindset shift, a tool, a strategy, one thing that's making a difference for you or your business. What would that one thing be for each of you?
Victoria, I got a heads up on this question before you got here, so I can answer while you think. So me, and it's a personal thing that has bled into how I'm looking at the business and how we talk to clients. And it's the silent thing that most people don't want to talk about, and that's mental health. Victoria has too. We've been through a lot over these last few years, and it has caught up to us in ways that we probably didn't anticipate. It manifests itself in your body differently. And I couldn't put a finger on what was wrong, right? And Victoria's like, you're grieving. And I'm like, oh, this is mental health, and let's talk about it. So we do a lot of communication. When I'm down, she knows it a lot of times before I do, or I can sense when she has things going on. Taking care of myself and recognizing that, speaking it, I have these things that I'm going through. It doesn't make me a lesser person. It doesn't make me less productive. I just have to acknowledge it and take a day if I need a day, or an hour, or if I need a nap, take a nap, go to the gym. That's been a shift over the last few months that I'm still working on, and it'll probably be something that I'll be working on for the rest of my life. And I know it's things that people don't necessarily want to talk about, but the mental health shift. And I will talk about that with clients, if they're open and willing, because that is a huge part of how we'll be able to help them be successful, because it's helped us be more successful.
No, I mean, I think it's kind of that flows and segues kind of into what I'm probably going to say too. For me, I think it's learning discernment. Whenever you take a business approach, some people don't like when you bring in the feelings. We've had a couple occasions where, We had this client that we thought was going to be really big, and they had just suffered a death, and they just kept doing their work, and we're like giving them space, like maybe we should reschedule. And they're like, no, let's just keep going. And it didn't work out because they weren't dealing with their grief, and it made things really messy. And we just stepped away. We're like, you know what? I don't think this is working out. Let's just move on. But it really is discernment, and we're learning that. It's a big word. It's just like wisdom, right? It's just a big word, and you don't get it unless you go through it. And the same with discernment. I mean, there have just been times where I see a post, on Reddit or LinkedIn, and I want to be this like type warrior that's like, no, this is not what's going on. And I'm like, do I need to be spending my energy on that? When I'm talking to people, and they keep potential clients and they keep pushing back, well, AI, I'm like, do I need to exhaust myself in this conversation? We clearly don't align. So thank you so much for being with me, like, tell me when when maybe we can, get together later, like, sure. So it really is like discerning and understanding your exhaustion mark or your burnout mark. I think that's something that Al and I have both, that space we've had to negotiate, and we've also had to negotiate that space with our writers too. I know like our writers want to do right by us, and they say, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, but we know that they can't. There is a burnout marker that we see on this like higher level where we're at. So I think just being able to discern your own personal burnout level, discern what your team's burnout level is, because that's also going to give you really good information of like, okay, I can put the pressure on now, and they're going to give us a deliverable. There's a difference between setting the bar high and watching them jump up. And there's a difference between like understanding and knowing when to pile on and when not. And I think that does help build that team's desire to keep coming back and to keep wanting to put in the work, because these are all, I mean, we have a team of freelancers. They can come and go whenever they want. They can ghost us whenever they want. We haven't had that. I mean, we have writers that have been with us for 5 years. And I think that's just a testament to our ability to not just work with them, but also have those discerning moments of, should we pile on this work or should we not? How can we delegate these things that need to get done? So, yeah.
Mental health and discernment.
I love that. Victoria and Alan, this was a phenomenal conversation. I'm sure there are so many nuggets that individuals are able to gather from this chat that we're having. If people want to learn more about Blue 7 content, where can they find you? How can they get in contact?
I guess I should say blue7content.com, but honestly, if you want to know the real us, find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Alan Watson, Victoria Lozano. That's where we engage a lot. We're very active on LinkedIn. You can get us there. We check out our posts, but we'll talk to you. Not a problem at all. We love having conversations. So if anybody wants to reach out, feel free.
Yeah. And our emails are very easy. Victoria@blue7content.com. Alan@blue7content.com. We try to make things very simple. We know everyone's got a lot on their minds, and we try to make it real compact and simple so you don't got to worry about it. Very obtainable we are.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining me on the Bright Ideas podcast. We'll be sure to include all of your contact information in the show notes. Until next time.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Bright Ideas. If today's episode gave you something to think about, here's your next step. DM me the word growth on LinkedIn to start a conversation about how we can help you scale smarter. And if you're a founder, CEO, or senior talent leader with a story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out about joining me on a future episode. And if you don't want to miss future conversations, be sure to follow the show, leave a quick rating, and download your favorite episodes to take them on the go. Your support helps more leaders discover bright ideas. Until next time, be bold, be resilient, be sharp. I'm Desiree B. Sharpe.